everyone, and welcome back. Today we have a very exciting video because today is my 1-year anniversary on YouTube. Yay! I cannot believe it's been an entire year since I posted my very first video, and I went back and watched it last night, and it was rough. It was a little rough, but that's okay. We've learned and we've grown in our editing skills. We still have a lot to learn, but that's okay too. And so I thought it would be really fun to recreate my very first YouTube video, which was the mid-year book tag, and just kind of going through books that you've read in the first half of the year, some of your favorites, some of your non-favorites. I don't know what in the world made me want to post that as my very first video, but that's what I did, so that's what we're gonna do today. I, of course, wanted to say thank you so much to anyone watching this video or anyone that has watched any of the videos that I posted in the past year. I have just enjoyed making videos so much. Posting and creating content is so fun for me, and I know everyone says that, but I just really enjoy it. It is such a good creative outlet for me, and that's truly why I started a YouTube channel, because I felt like I really needed something else that was creative to put my time and energy in that wasn't my actual job. And so I just wanted to say thank you so much for anyone who has watched or liked or commented on one of my videos. It means the world to me, so thank you very much. But getting into the video, I'm going to answer the exact same questions that I answered last year. I will, of course, link that video below in case you want to watch and see how my answers have differed. Obviously, a completely new set of books for this year, but I think let's just get right on into it. So the first question is the best book you've read so far this year. And I have not had a ton of 5-star books this year. I have tried to be really strict on what I've rated on Goodreads a 5-star. And I have 2 that stood out. I chose one in particular that really has stood out to me this year, and that was Fourth Wing. People have so many mixed opinions on this book, but I kid you not, I ate this book up. This book is 500 pages, and I'm pretty sure I read it in 2 sittings. I could not stop reading this book. I completely fell into the world. It made me feel like what I felt when I first read ACOTAR, which was the very first fantasy book I ever read. And I just loved the characters. I loved the world. The world building in this book is absolutely incredible. The romance is amazing. It is just such a good book. And it makes me sad to think that other people didn't enjoy it as much as I did, because I loved it. I just loved it so much. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I also really enjoyed Iron Flame. I'm pretty sure I rated that 5 stars too. Absolutely hated the ending of that book, but I still loved it. I think because I ate this up so hard that just being in the world in Iron Flame made me love it so much, even if I didn't love what was happening with the plot. So yeah, Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, I just truly cannot recommend more. Loved this book so much. The next question is the best sequel that you've read so far this year. And this is where I put my other top favorite of the year, and that is the Abby Jimenez Just for the Summer. So this is technically the 3rd book in the Part of Your World series, so that's why I'm choosing it as my favorite sequel, because I would have chosen this one as my favorite book too. But this book, oh my gosh, I had 0 expectations going into this book, because I honestly did not love Part of Your World and Yours Truly, which are the 2 books that come before this one. I liked the plot and I liked the characters. It was just, I don't know, something was missing for me in those books. And so when I went into this one, I had obviously heard a lot of people talking about this. This book was released not too long ago, maybe like a month ago, and people were so excited, absolutely loving it. And so I went in still with low expectations because I wasn't into the first 2, but this completely took me off guard with how much I loved this book. The romance in this book, I couldn't deal with it. It was like making me have an existential crisis, because the man in this book just got my love language so well. I am such an acts of service person, and that is definitely what Justin is, the main character in this book. It was crazy how much I was in love with this book character, and this was another one of those 5-star reads that just stood out to me, and I could not stop thinking about it days afterwards. And that's what I'm trying to do this year, is rate books 5 stars only if, 1, I'm super into it while I'm reading it and I can't stop thinking about it, and 2, if I can't stop thinking about it after I've read it. I feel like that's really where the 5 stars should come in. And so if you were like me and you didn't love Abby Jimenez's books before this, check this out because I'm telling you, it was so good. Next up, we have new releases that you haven't read yet but are excited to. And I have 3 for you that I am going to read very soon. I'm going to take 2 of them to the beach. I'm going to the beach in a couple weeks. But that first one is Emily Henry Funny Story, Christina Lauren, The Paradise Problem, and Rebecca Searle, Expiration Dates. And all 3 of these books are books by authors that I have read before. I'm just excited to read these. Funny Story is Emily Henry's release for this year. I actually don't even know what this is about. I have read Happy Place by her, which I loved, and People We Meet on Vacation, which I was kind of iffy about. I liked it, but I didn't love it. And so I'm excited to see where this one falls in the ranking because, again, I've seen people rate this 5 stars or at least rate this 4 stars. So I'm excited to get into this one. Christina Lauren's book, I read a book by her earlier this year for my book club, Love and Other Words, and it wasn't my favorite, but I have read Soulmate Equation and The Honeymooners by her and really liked those books. So I'm excited to see how I feel about this one. This cover is so, I love this cover so much. It's so summery and cute and pink, and so I'm definitely bringing this to the beach with me. This potentially might be some sort of fake dating, marriage for convenience situation, which are 2 tropes that I actually really enjoy reading, so I'm excited to check out this one as well. And then Rebecca Searle. I have read In 5 Years by her and didn't love it, and I wanted to read One Italian Summer, but I just never got to it. But the concept of this book was really cool. This is basically about our main character. I think her name is Daphne. Yeah, Daphne. Her entire life has received little paper slips that tell her basically the future of her dating life. So I think it gives the example of 3 days with Martin in Paris, 5 weeks with Noah in San Francisco, and 3 months with Hugo, her ex-boyfriend turned best friend. And you can actually kind of see the little notes on the inside slip cover, which I think is so cool. She then gets a slip of paper when she meets someone and it only has his name, not the length of time. So I think we just kind of follow her story from there, and I want to give this author another chance because as I've learned with Abby Jimenez, if I don't like a book, that doesn't mean that I won't like other books that the author has written. And so I'm very excited to read this one. Next, we have a book that made you cry. And I don't actually have it with me because I brought it home to my mom so that she could read it. And that is The Measure by Nikki Erlich. I guess you would call it, I don't know if you would call it a science fiction or what, but basically this is about a version of our world where everyone wakes up one day and they receive a box at their doorstep, and it's truly everyone in the entire world, no matter if you live in an apartment, in a tent, in the rainforest, everyone in the world receives a box. And in that box is a length of string, and that string is the measure of how long your life is going to be. And so this just kicks off when they figure out what the string measure actually means. Everyone is trying to decide if they should open their box. And it basically comes down to, if you had the chance, would you want to know when you were going to die? And again, this book gave me an existential crisis in a completely different way than Just for the Summer. But this was just made me think about the way that I live my life, because we follow a good amount of characters in this book, and each character in the book has a completely different situation. Some of the characters don't look at their string. Some of the characters, have a super short string. Some of them have a long string, but maybe their partner has a super short string. And you just see how you deal with life through that. And it was such a powerful book, and it 100% made me cry because you get to know these characters, and you as the reader also know how long they're gonna live and how they choose to spend their time. And the entire time you're just thinking, like, would I open my box? And I don't think I would. This is also one of our book club books, and it was such a great book club pick because all of us had different answers. A lot of people said that they would open their box, but I think no matter how much longer I had to live, I would still be thinking about the end, whether that was in my 80s or next year. I don't think I could live my life knowing the exact day and not feel like I was counting down the days to it. And so I think I would make the choice to not open my box and just live life obliviously. If you did have a short string, how would you spend the rest of your time? Or if you had a long string, how would you make sure that you did everything you wanted to do to make an impact when those who had a short string couldn't? So it was just such a good book. I've never read a fiction book that made me think about the meaning of life so much, and I just really enjoyed it, and I would highly recommend anyone to read it. The next question, coming up on that note, is a book that made you happy. And I was trying to figure out which one I was going to pick for this, and I decided to go with Powerless by Lauren Roberts. And this was not a happy-go-lucky book in any way, but this was a new fantasy book that, again, I just got sucked into. I ended up giving this 4 stars. I try not to do the half stars because it just gets too confusing to me, so I did give this 4 stars. If I did half stars, I might have given this 4.5 because I really loved it. And the reason why it made me happy was because I was in semi of a book slump after I finished Fourth Wing, because I read a couple books after Fourth Wing that I really didn't like, and I just felt like I wasn't going to be able to find a book that captured me as much as Fourth Wing did. But there's something about a fantasy book that makes you dive completely into that world. That is how I felt with Powerless. So this is a fantasy book. Basically, you are either an elite, so you have powers, or an ordinary and you don't. And our main girl is an ordinary, and she has to pose as an elite to save her life, and she has to compete in these trials that happen every year. And there is, of course, a prince that is a love interest, and because isn't there always in a fantasy book? And the reason why this made me happy was just because it was the first book after Fourth Wing that was a fantasy that I really could not stop reading. This was a book that I was thinking about when I wasn't reading it, and thinking about when the next time that I could read it was, because I was so in this world. And that's why it made me happy, because I was like, okay, I can actually feel this way about a book that isn't Fourth Wing. Going to our next question, which is most anticipated release of the year. I'm really excited to read the second book in the series, Reckless. So the reason why I gave Powerless 4 stars was because I didn't love the ending, and the way that everything wrapped up, I don't know why. I feel like 5 stars is such a feeling, and I just did not get that feeling at the end of Powerless. But I just enjoyed it so much while I was reading it. So I'm excited to see where the story goes from here, and if I will feel that same thing of being so into the world, but maybe like the ending this time. And I actually don't know if Reckless, which is the next book, is if it's going to be a duology or if it's going to be a trilogy. There is a novella called Powerful that I want to read that's already out, but I'm really excited to read Reckless and just see where the story goes. I am also excited to read a book coming out called The Next Mrs. Parrish, and this is the sequel to The Last Mrs. Parrish, which is a book that came out, I want to say in 2018, and I absolutely loved it. It is a mystery thriller book, and the twist in that book was so good, and I loved the way that Liv Constantine, the author, writes. I'm just intrigued to know why she decided to continue the story of The Last Mrs. Parrish so long after it was published, because she's published other books in between. But I really enjoyed the characters in The Last Mrs. Parrish, and so I'm excited to see what happens in The Next Mrs. Parrish. I haven't even read the synopsis to see what it's going to be about, because I kind of want to be surprised, but I'm really excited to read that one. Okay, our next question is favorite new author or genre. And I had a lot of trouble figuring out what I was going to say for this one, because I haven't read an author consistently this year, nor have I read a new genre, because last year I think I said that memoirs were my new favorite thing, because I had really been enjoying the nonfiction memoirs or autobiographies that I was reading, and I still have been reading those, but it's not really new to me now. So I think I'm going to go with pirate/mermaid books. I know, I don't know what it is about me and a pirate, but I love me a pirate male main character. There is something about a pirate, which is so funny, because in real life, in no way would I ever be attracted to a man that had pirate qualities or tendencies. But for some reason, reading about a pirate in a book, I'm like, yep, love me a pirate. Especially when it comes with some sort of mermaid or siren female main character, and pirate mermaid love stories. Oh my gosh, I'm here for them. I don't know why, but I'm loving them. So I read Daughter of the Pirate King and Daughter of the Siren Queen, which is a little YA duology, and then I also reread To Kill a Kingdom, and I'm considering rereading Fable and Namesake, which is, again, another kind of pirate fantasy book. And there's just something about these books, y'all. I don't know why. I think it's because I enjoy fantasy books so much, and these feel like summer fantasies to me because I come into my mermaid self in the summer. I just want to be a mermaid so bad. I have H2O playing nonstop. I watch Aquamarine at least every week. I'm loving the mermaids in the summer. And so I think that's why I love the mermaid pirate book so much. So if you are ever in need of a mermaid pirate fantasy romance book, I highly recommend these three, as well as Namesake and Fable. I actually have not read Saint, and I have that one, so I need to get to that one this summer, which is the prequel to Fable and Namesake. But yeah, pirate books, who would have known? Not me, but I love them. Newest fictional crush, that would have to be Justin from Just for the Summer. He gets me. He gets the main character, and I feel like if we met in real life, he would get me as well. He is just so thoughtful. The things that this man thinks about and the little things that he does for Emma, his love interest, are just, I love it. I love it so much. I could not stop thinking about him. I had texted my friends about him, just being like, it is now a requirement for anyone that I date. He has to read Just for the Summer to understand my love language, because this man gets it. And if y'all want to get it too, that's what you gotta read. Our next question is the most beautiful book you've bought this year, and that is probably The Ballerinas. So last year I did my special editions of Once Upon a Broken Heart and The Ballad of Never After, but I have not bought any special editions this year, and this was kind of cheating because I was actually given this for Christmas, but I think this is my favorite cover of a book that I've read this year. So this book is about women who were professional ballerinas with the Paris Opera and kind of their lives in a dual timeline, and I really enjoyed reading about ballerinas in Paris. I really love this cover. I just think it's so beautiful, these ballerinas in motion, twirling around, and I just love the pale pink in the covers, and so I think this is probably my favorite cover of a book that I've read this year. And then last but not least, which books do you need to reach before the year is up? So I'm kind of using this as a little bit of a TBR for the rest of the year. And two books that I need to finish are Swan Song by Kelly Greenberg Jeffcott, I think that's how you say it, and Park Avenue Summer by Renee Rosen. So Swan Song was my book club's book pick for last month, and this tells the story of Truman Capote, which was the author of Breakfast at Tiffany's, and it is a fictionalized retelling of his life and scandal. It was a difficult book for me to read. I didn't really understand what was going on very well, so the author kind of puts you into the middle of the story right from the start of the book and doesn't really explain who people are. And I think it's probably because this is a fictionalized retelling, and so if you picked up this book, maybe you would just know who these people are and their backgrounds and things. But it's also set up in a very interesting way of multiple different timelines, and you have to pay attention to what year the chapter is in to know when in the story this is happening. And it's almost like a book where you can't trust the narrator, because Truman Capote, at least in this book, would retell stories about his childhood or make up stories to make him seem a certain way. And it was just so hard for me to wrap my head around. I don't know what my deal was, but it made me feel better because all the girls in my book club said the exact same thing. I don't think any of us actually finished the book, and that had never happened before. I don't want to give up on this because I'm intrigued by the story, but I just have got to take a little bit more time to read this and put some brain power into it, and maybe do a little bit more research on Truman Capote and his squad so I can know their stories going into this. I don't know, but for some reason I'm determined to finish this book. And then Park Avenue Summer is a historical fiction about the editor-in-chief of Cosmopolitan magazine in the 1960s, which is just so up my alley. And I picked this up and decided that I wasn't in the mood for historical fiction. I was in the mood for a romance, and so I read a romance book, and then I decided I was in the mood for a mystery. And so this was purely, I put this down purely because I wasn't in the mood for it, and I've been trying to be better about that this year. But I'm still really excited to read this because I thought the story was flowing really well and I liked how the author was writing it. It was truly just me not being in the mood for a historical fiction. And then a couple other things that I really want to get to this year. I finally went to read the Throne of Glass series. I don't know why it's taking me so long to read this series. I said I was going to read it in the winter of last year, and then I said I was going to read it in the winter of this year. I have this thing in my mind that I want to read them completely back to back, and it just seems like a daunting task to say that I'm going to read these 8 or 9 books all in a row. And I know I don't have to do it like that, but for some reason that's in my head that I have to. So I don't know, but I'm determined to read the Throne of the Glass series this year because I have a feeling I'm really gonna like it. I would also like to continue and finish the Flawless series by Elsie Silver, which is her cowboy romance series. I wasn't the biggest fan of Flawless, the very first one, but I've heard that Heartless and Powerless are some people's absolute favorites, which are number 2 and 3, and I'm really interested in those characters, so I really want to finish that one as well. I feel like there are other things that I'm forgetting. I just always have a ginormous mental TBR of books that I want to read, but for some reason those are all the books that are forefront on my mind that I want to read. So that is going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching and listening to me ramble about books for however long this video is going to end up being. I, again, just wanted to say thank you for this last year. First year on YouTube has been so much fun, and I can't wait to see what happens in this next one. And of course, if you ever have any video requests or recommendations or ideas that you want me to do, please leave them in a comment and I will be happy to do them for you. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye.